So I cut directly across the end grain, so I was peeling and slicing side grain. I'm now going to cut at an angle, and this is what I call tapered end grain. And it's the same grain orientation that we'd see on a sharpened pencil. So on a sharpened pencil, we actually have tapered end grain. Now, depending how tapered it is, depends on what percentage of it is pure end grain. So it varies a little bit, but I'm going to cut about 45 degrees, and I would still classify that material that's left behind as end grain. Only if it was very shallow would I classify it as side grain. I'm using the same 40-40 bowl gouge I used to cut across the end grain, peeling and slicing side grain. I'm now going to cut at an angle using the same gouge. Now the difference to this cut is before I started flat, opened up the flute to the desired amount depending on whether I wanted a good quality finish or an easier cut. The more I closed the flute, the more resistant it was, but the more I was creating dust and peeling the side grain with more of a scrape. In this situation here, I definitely don't want to be going in flat. Two reasons. One, it'll want to skid more easily, and two, I'll be scraping purely with the wing. I may get a good finish by keeping the flute closed, but I'll be scraping too much with the wing. So I'm going to drop and lift the handle in as I go for the cut, remembering that I'm cutting end grain at an angle. So let's go ahead with the cut. I'm going to do a couple of cuts, show you the finish, then I'm going to stop the cut, part the way down and show you how it's actually cutting the fibers. So here we can see I got a very clean finish on the tapered end grain. Now let's stop the cut part the way down and let you see what the gouge was actually doing. I've stopped halfway down. We can see the nose of the gouge was slicing, but the wing of the gouge was peeling away, and there is some end grain. Remember, this is at an angle on this side, so therefore there is some end grain present. It's not a pure end grain cut, so we never want to take too heavy a cut like this. Otherwise, I'd have to close the flute more or it'd become grabby. But you can see it's destroying these fibers, but they're waste anyway. It's the end result here that we want. So let's just show you the alternative here of closing the flute and lifting. It may give me a slightly better finish, but something that's probably not worth it because I'll be scraping with the wing, creating a lot more dust, working a lot harder. So I was pushing harder with the tool. The difference in the finish, basically there isn't any difference in the finish. So the main thing about this is to ensure that I'm slicing the right amount, that I don't over-rotate the gouge and cut backwards here. This would create a catch. And therefore, I'd be cutting uphill with a live edge into end grain. So it's a balance of slicing through the side grain. There's a little bit of peel mixed with end grain and side grain as it's going down the waste material. But done correctly, it's very easy. And I'm lifting the handle to get towards the middle at the end there. Lifting at the right percentage as I go towards the middle. I'm keeping the same cut all the way down, the same finish, no tone grain, under control. It's very comfortable to do. When I cut this tapered cut, it was exactly the same as sharpening a pencil with a skew. It's very easy to do, slicing in this direction, towards the center of the pencil. Now, if I was to sharpen the pencil the wrong way, as I come in here, it would bury itself and it would actually just chip out the fibers towards the back. In fact, let's create that. So you can see it's just pulling out the fibers. So I'm going to do this exact same cut, showing what happens when we cut in the wrong direction. I'm not going to be cutting uphill into end grain with a live edge. What I mean by that is I'm not pointing an edge uphill this way into end grain. That would be a catch. I wouldn't be able to control that. I'm simply going to have the gouge in the right orientation so it won't grab, and I'll be pushing it in this direction along with bevel contact, and then we'll see the end result. So that was a safe cut. I didn't have any of the cutting edge pointing uphill into the end grain because that would have caught, but I was cutting in the wrong direction. So the fibers, each one getting slightly shorter, are a little rough. They're not actually torn because it's a fairly sound piece of wood, wormhole, but here you can see they were lifted a little bit where the wood is a little softer on this side. But right at the end where there was absolutely no support for the fibers, then they just ripped out. So we'd never want to cut in this direction. This damaged area here would take a little bit of repairing, and this, well, can't be repaired. And it's just bad practice. We always want to be cutting, like we do with a pencil, cutting towards the center, spindle turning.